everyone, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank, and today we're going to talk about Batman issue 50. So this is the big issue, the wedding between Batman and Catwoman, is what I would probably have said had this actually happened. So yeah, spoiler alert. And if you had somehow been able to keep yourself away from the New York Times, who spoiled the ending, I think it was on Monday, with consent from DC, it seems, more power to you. I was also able to do it as well. But my problem with this issue is sort of just how it all happens, how it all comes tumbling down, because a lot of nothing happened. So over the course of this issue, we have 3 points that are made in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Not even really the middle, the beginning and the end. 1 point at the beginning, 2 points at the end. The first point is Batman and Catwoman have resolved, like, you know what, we're getting married tonight, or dawn, or whatever. And Batman's going to get a judge, and they'll both bring a witness. Batman's getting Alfred, Catwoman's getting Holly. And throughout the course of this extra-size issue, what we're mostly getting are the letters Batman and Catwoman have written to each other. And to be fair, I think we're being a bit too critical of the letters. The letters, I think, are fine. The letters, I think, worked very well when Batman and Catwoman were dealing with Bane, because they confess their feelings to each other, and Batman and Catwoman both say they haven't had time to write letters to each other because they've been so busy. So I think it's really sweet. That's how the two of them like to communicate with each other. You know, their feelings. They like to communicate it through letters. I think it's sweet. But at the same time, it takes up so much of the book, there's nothing else to think about. And with these letters are being read by us over pictures of things that have nothing to do with the story. They're just different artists doing their take on Batman and Catwoman. Some done by Greg Capullo, some done by the team from Batman Noel, some done by the team from the Harley Quinn book last year, some done by a multitude of different artists have come up and said, well, here's me drawing Batman and Catwoman together. And these are all just essentially different variant covers. And that would be fine, but again, this is the substitute for more stuff going on in the story. Had these pages been the letter along with the story progressing in a different way, like, had this been the actual wedding, like, had this letter been their exchange while the actual ceremony is happening, like we've gotten the Bat family there, we've gotten Catwoman's small group of friends, mostly just Harley and a bunch of people we'll never meet again, I think that would have been fine. We could have done Harley and Huntress and whatnot. That would have been fine. But that's not what we get. We effectively just get splash pages and Batman and Alfred having what would be a really tender moment, but it's so short and visually underwhelming that I think it just sort of gets lost in the mix. And then we have the second moment. So yeah, we're pretty much at the near end, if not the actual end of this. Holly mentions that even though she's known Batman since the beginning because Bruce and Selina met on the streets, on the bad side of Gotham, and she said, I can't believe that's him, and I'm not used to seeing him happy, I'm used to seeing him miserable. I didn't think Batman could be anything but miserable. I always thought he needed to be miserable. And that sort of resonates with Selina. And that's sort of where this comes from. Because Joker hints at that in the previous issue, that Joker says Batman needs to be miserable. He needs to not be happy because he can't be Batman if he's happy. And all it takes. The problem is this sort of implies to some extent that she didn't know this, that something pushes Batman on, or rather, this was something she'd never thought about before. And I don't think that's really plausible. And then, of course, when she's on her way, when Holly's driving her to the rooftop, she talks about how she hasn't finished writing the letter, which is weird because we're definitely seeing the letter being written or finished. And she asks, am I a hero now? And Holly says, after all this, I think you don't have much of a choice. And when Alfred's driving Bruce down to the rooftop, Bruce says, can I be happy? And Alfred says, I don't think you have much of a choice. After all you've been through, you kind of need to be happy. And for Bruce, this makes sense. Like, everything that's been going on since the issues with Gotham and Gotham Girl, and his attack on Bane to get the Psycho Pirate, and his final fight with Bane, I always felt like that was sort of like what Bruce's like direction was going to be. He was going to try to be happy. And even Dick Grayson said himself, like, look, he wants to be happy. He's trying to be happy. That's why he's marrying Catwoman, because it makes him happy. And then we get to the rooftop, and Selina doesn't show. She just runs off. And the comic ends with our actual second bit of information, which is Holly returning to Arkham, and then she just keeps walking down and down, presumably to the basement, where she is met by, well, she goes to meet Bane, the Riddler, the Joker, the Psycho Pirate, Gotham Girl, Thomas Wayne Batman from the Flashpoint universe, Hugo Strange, and even Skeets. And apparently Bane is saying, like, this is all going exactly. He's effectively saying, like, this was all planned. This was all part of the plan. And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? The problem with this story is not only is there not a lot going on, but this was built up. This was supposed to be DC's wedding of the century. I think ultimately every Batman fan knew that if this marriage was somehow going to happen, it wasn't going to last long. Like, I honestly could have seen this run, the Batman Catwoman marriage, lasting a year, and it would have just been like the Doctor and River song, where they're married, but they each have their own special things to do. They don't see each other that often, but when they do, it's nothing but sweet, beautiful love. They hug, they kiss, they're happy. That is how Batman and Catwoman, I think, would have to function as a married couple. It's not like, Batman comes home from a long day as, the Gotham's Cape Crusader, and, Catwoman's waiting with a dry martini and, his slippers. No. She's not going to stay at home. She's going to, like, do her own thing. And, she may be stealing. She may even adopt a more Robin Hood-like approach. Like, she robs from rich people to, give to the poor, or robs from, gangsters to give to the poor and whatnot. But at the same time, it would have still been fun to see which direction this goes. Can Batman be happy? Can Batman juggle his sort of married life? Would it force him to adopt a sort of 9 to 5? Is he now afraid because there's someone special in his life that he might not see again? These are all questions that could have been answered, but they weren't. And in a lot of ways, that makes sense for Batman. Look, Batman's love life, they either leave or they get buried in the ground. That sort of is how Batman's love life works. Whether it was Andrea Beaumont in Mask of the Phantasm, who was, I think, one of the best handled love stories for Batman. She left because of her father and the mafia, and then she comes back and she goes down an even darker path in Batman, going around just killing people. Or Rachel Dawes in Batman Begins, who says, like, Bruce Wayne isn't who you are, it's Batman, and until Gotham doesn't need you, I can't be in your life. And that was sweet, that was poignant. And with Batman and Catwoman, it's always been this big will they, won't they sort of romance. It reminds me a bit of Scrooge, McDuck, and Glitter and Goldie, and the fact that the lives they lead keep them from being with each other, but they really do love each other. So, yeah, ultimately, I get why this issue is so divisive. Tom King's take on romance it's not as good here. It was better than Mr. Miracle, but I think that's because he was sort of effectively allowed to sort of rework Mr. Miracle from the ground up. He hasn't rewritten Batman from the ground up. I think it's actually really hard to rewrite Batman from the ground up. No one should expect a writer on Batman to sort of rewrite the character. Their usual job is to sort of like, up the stories, tell new and interesting stories, which is also a bit hard with Batman. Ultimately, I don't think this issue is bad. I think it's because this should have been a much bigger spectacle. This marriage should have happened, and I'm not going to say it was a mistake because Tom King still has 50 more issues to write, and I look forward to reading them. Because, as I said before, with Tom King is at worst an underwhelming Batman writer. But when he does something really great, it's really great. War of Jokes and Riddles, I still love his Gotham Girl storyline. And the Superman and Batman little team up that he had, and the Batman and Wonder Woman team up that they had, I felt was all really good stuff. And I like Kite Man. I don't care what anybody says. I felt that was a really great story. But ultimately, yeah, I am a bit let down, primarily because there's still next to nothing happening in this story to warrant it costing extra money. And, all the extra pages. It's a lot of nothing happening, just so we can shove in failed variant covers. But with that in mind, we're going to bring this video to a close here. If you're new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Always love to hear your thoughts on this. Feel free to check out some other videos, and I will catch you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. May your fandom serve you well.